hungry. Yeah?
Yeah.
We're good. Alright guys, Luke, Floor Ninja. So I've been asked many a times on how I mark out on a job. So I thought I'd try and do a little video, and this is for beginners, well, anyone basically looking to mark out herringbone. This is my way. There are other ways of doing it that I might say about as I'm doing this, but this is the way I do it, and I'll explain why as I go. So on this particular job, it's a hallway. Just show. So it's a bit of an awkward shaped hallway. It goes through into another study over there. Which I can just show now. But for me, the main area is coming in here. There's no furniture in this hallway or anything, so it's open. So the main areas I'm going to start measuring out or getting a centre point from are these two walls that I want to try and get very good cuts at the minimum. So the first thing I'll do, you see here, we've already made our Christmas tree templates. I'll explain what they're for in a minute. But first thing I'm going to do is get my centre points. So any of you that have been to the training course will know my little tape measure trick. Instead of walking a tape measure across to the skirting, crunching it against it, trying to guess what it is, I'll kneel down roughly in the middle of the room. So here now I'm going to choose any red number that's between my shoulder width, which for me I'm just going to go with 150. 150, you'll notice I'm using a biro, always a biro, never a pencil, or even these things, you know, the line's just too inconsistent. With herringbone layout and the crown row, it's super important for me to be as accurate as possible. So I've done 150 there, still in the same place, put the tape measure across, and 150 there. So if you come in a bit, Jack, you'll see now what this tape measure trick basically does in any size room. I've just sucked the two skirting boards right into the middle of the room to me. And now, all I'll do is measure this. You'll notice I'm using 10 as my new 0. Don't try and balance the metal bit there. Use 10 as a new 0, and that is 74. So that, for me, 35, 37, 37. So I'll come along here, 37. You'll notice with the biro, what does it do? It's exactly the same size as these little lines. So we're keeping everything as accurate as we can. So at this stage, put a circle and a little C, that's centre point. Okay, I'll then come to the other end. If I was in a big room, I would come down to the other end of the room. If I was in a room, don't do this right against the skirting board. I'd always do it about a hand width away from the skirting board. So at this end, effectively, I need to come out a bit anyway to get past this, but I would be about hand's width away, 6 to 8 inches away. Same thing again, tape measure trick, 150. Doing the tape measure trick, getting the centre point is far, far more accurate than you trying to walk a tape measure across a room, okay? 150, again, sometimes if you want off of a metre, so off of a metre there, we can see these two biro lines line right up, making very simple maths for us. So 89, 40, 44.5, right? 44.5. So just in between there. Splitting hairs on half a mil, just double check that. Yeah, bang on. So as you can see, that's the perfect centre point of the area made easy, okay? So now we've got that. That's also C, centre point. For me, on any job, I will now not put a line on the floor. These are centre point, I call them datum points. If this was a much longer room, 6, 8 metres long, obviously they would be around 7 metres off apart, then 2 marks. To get a line, I don't use straight edges firstly, because if I was in an 8 metre room, I'm not going to have an 8 metre straight edge. So to join these datum marks up perfectly, I'll use a laser. So the laser comes off the van for about 5-10 minutes at the start of the job. And there's a little bit of like messing around with this. Obviously if it's 8 metres away, I would use the target board you get with the laser. Plus I'll have Jack or whoever I'm working with up there, making sure we get it right. A little bit of messing around at this stage, where we just get the laser bang on the point, Is that good? I'm just to the side of my one. What's the laser saying now? I want to be to the right hand side of the laser. That's why I can see it actually now. So I'm there. Am I? A bit more. Like I said, this bit. I've got a micro adjustment stand on the van, but it doesn't really work properly. So it's a bit of fiddling around. This is about the hardest part. You'll notice there that even with the laser line, I've worked to the side of the line, not in the middle, because I'm trying to keep things as accurate as possible. Now at this point, again in that bigger room, if it's a big lounge, 6, 8 meters long or whatever, I would then just do as minimum datum points as possible using the laser. So again, just with the byway on the side. And I don't do too many of these, but if you've got a 3 meter straight edge, spin around jacket. If you've got like a 3 meter straight edge for me, in an 8 meter room, I know that I need 1, 2 or 2 points in the middle, roughly just under 3 meters apart, so I can join them up if I want to do that. So I'm just going to go up here, where the laser line is, put a new line. With these, I'll put a C on it. They are centre point of the room. These are not going to be my working line. At this point, some people that mark out the herringbone will just measure along, split the paint, put a mark here, or they'll measure the pattern width, let's say 700. They'll go 350 off of this, put a line, and then work to the side points. For me, that doesn't work, especially when you're using this. I want a working line through the middle of my pattern to stay on when I get the crown right. Because any undulations in the floor, etc., working to a sideline for me just doesn't work. But anyone that does do that and does a perfect job every time, cool. I'm saying this is just me explaining what I do and why. So at this point now, the laser will be done with. I've got some marks on the floor. I call what I call datum points, and I know they've been set by a laser. So anything I do off them now using the tape measure will be good, at least we hope. I already know what my shift measurement should be, okay? But for anyone setting up herringbone for the first time, if you make this tree or if you make the pattern, everything you need to know about any herringbone is right there. So that's why this tree is made first. What you need to know for setup is the point to point, if you want to do it the way I'm going to show you now, okay? You can measure this point to point, and this can be as simple as, again, with your tape measure, don't use the end. Put it underneath so the point is bang on 10, and then you can see that point there, the camera might pick it up. This is 3-inch plank, so most people would say 108, and let's for argument's sake say it is 108, okay? But if the camera picks it up, Jack, that point is actually between 7 and 8 mil. But we're not going to get too technical. For marking out 108, the point to point is always divided by 4. In this instance, being 3-inch plank, it equals 27 mil. It's as simple as that. But if this was 4-inch by 16-inch long, whatever size you're doing, if you just make the herringbone pattern perfect, you can measure the point to point, always divided by 4, and that will give us a shift measurement. Okay, and these are things that I call it, okay guys? I'm sure there'll be some people out there that like to try and pick holes in this video and my terminologies of things, but they can crack on. So I want that shift measurement because it's now important for me to mark off of these centre points so that I ensure equal size cuts both sides of the ring. So from this, and again, the only thing you've got to think about here is, like, we've got this crown row set out this way. So we've got the crown row set out. We're going to run the crown row. So you come through, the customer comes through the door and the crown row runs like that. So at the top of the pattern, the point is to the right. So all of the measurements for me will be made to the right. So now I'll just go 27. This one is a bit back to front, but 27. And up to this one, 27. So now I've got shift marks, I will now put a line on the floor. and I will find the straight edge first. Just get it. Now I will, again, always use a biro. So at this point, instead of keep picking it up and lifting over, if I've got two of these, I like to ski the straight edges up the floor. You'll notice I'll use these straight edges as opposed to the roll up flexible ones, because the 4 metre, 5 metre ones that roll out the flexible, they bow in the middle. You will not tell me different, because I know they 100% do. But you notice just by me doing this method here, sliding this up 2 machine edges against each other. You see, Jack, that's gone perfectly through that shift line, yeah? Here, just it. That's literally gone there. So as long as you don't move these straight edges while you're doing this, like now, I'll hold pressure on that one. I'll slide that one up, put some pressure back on this side. And I can extend this line all the way up, perfectly straight. And one thing I know is that this line will be, as long as I don't slip and move when I'm doing this, which sometimes you can do, especially if your floor's really undulated, you will. I can extend this line right the way up. So we go to about there. Okay, and just a biro line. So, at this point now, before I do anything else, I'm really quickly and easily going to check my side cuts. This is another reason for having these trees made. These become tools for you when you're working, and they also help in this instance. Like, this is a small area, but if this is a 5 or 6 metre wide room and I'm 3 metres away and I want to check the cuts, there are measurements. Everyone asks me at the training centre, are there measurements? Yes, there are measurements. You can measure from a point to the internal point and work your way over, but it just gets a little bit confusing for some people, imagining when they mark actually how the pattern lands. So the easiest thing, like the dummy guide, that I like to do, is just use the product. But using individual planks, so 3 to 4 metres away, is like individual planks can be a bit of a pain, or time consuming. Whereas if you've got some trees, you just, I'm just going to get a pile of them as quickly. But because I'm in a small area here, what I'm not going to do, like if this was a big area, on a smaller tree, I'd spin them round, very quickly spin them over to the side. But here you can see it's a small area, so I'm just now going to use the planks, and then we can see what sort of cut we've got. So on the edge now, that is going to fall lovely. When I get to this point, I'll always draw round this pattern just for a reference point when I take these away, because I will check that side in a minute to make sure it's dead accurate. But I always like to draw on the floor just for reference of what like the cut will be. So you don't have to do this, but you'll notice so far with a lot of things like measurements of things I'll write on the floor, because I can be very forgetful. But I'm happy at this stage that along this wall, the cut's going to basically be like that. So I've got a good couple of inches spare in case this wall runs out, which you'd hope it wouldn't run 2 inches or so out. But sometimes it can. You can still check that, of course. So I would always check the other side. There's radiator pipes through there, which are a bit of a pain. You have to watch that. So over the other side, we'll be looking to do the same thing. And there we go. We should be the same. On the sides of the room, in the middle, don't ever expect like this point to there to be exactly the same, because on a square, on a room for instance, if this skirting bows out and this one bows in, for instance, excuse my technical drawing, but you're not always looking for an exact measurement on the room. If anywhere, if you were going to look to get the same measurement, do it up near the corners because they're normally the squarest part. But the main thing on the sides is that the cuts look relatively the same, which they are going to be, and the skirting's not burning out stupidly, which is what we're looking for. Again, on this side, like I say, there are people use many other different ways of laying out. I'm just sharing with you my way, okay? No preaching here, just sharing with you because so many people ask. So this is just a bit of a dummies guide. This is marking out herringbone. So now we know in this area the cuts are good. When it goes off through to that skirting over there, I'm not too worried about at this stage. Like, if at any point I need to adapt the pattern to stop triangles or whatever as we go into that study, I will do that. The only thing left to do now is to get a centre point on the vertical. Obviously this isn't a square room, but if you've got a square room, we'd ideally want a centre point. Okay, if you had a rectangle or square room, you'd want a vertical centre point to work out basically your triangle sizes at the end, okay? So if it is square, then you want the triangles to be the same size and also not little ratty triangles. Yeah. So in this area, you can see there's so many different drop backs and that. Inevitably, somewhere we're probably going to get a bit of a nasty little triangle, which can't be odds always. But I am going to get a vertical centre point off of this and the bottom of the stairs, which the only thing you need to do for that is on your centre line, you're just going to literally do the tape measure trick. You just allow for a little bit of carpet. Is that what? Yeah? That's 10 mil roughly? Let me straighten up. Right, that's it. We choose 180. So we've got 180 that way. It's getting a bit congested with the biro here, but 180. So again there, if I was in an 8 metre room and I went 390, 390, I'd only have to stay in one place and I'd have sucked the skirting boards into this and made it very simple maths. Whereas 99 out of 100 people that I see would be walking a tape measure up the room, crunching up the skirting and wondering what was it, so 92, 47. So we are getting a little bit congested with the old pen lines here. So I know where that, I can see where that is. And I'll put a CV, centre vertical. And now all you do to work back and work your triangle sizes out is you're back to using your Christmas trees, okay? Yes, there's some maths involved, but when if this was an 8 metre room, a very big area, let's just say we're 4 metres away from the bottom and we want to work back to get down to the bottom. Trying to use maths, unless you use the Pythagoras theorem exact number, is pain. So the easiest way is, why not just use the trees, yeah? Let's dumbify it for ourselves. Put that in there, get another tree, put that in there, on the line. As you can see, we're roughly on the line. Now at this point, I'm going to get loose planks. Okay, and then all I'm going to do, even when the planks don't fit in, I'm just going to overlay them, keep overlaying them up to the skirting board, and I'm going to get to a point, keep using that one, I'm going to get to a point where now you can see on that line, I don't put biro mark on the skirting, get glue up on that in a minute. But yeah, so now you can see that will basically be your triangle size. Had that have happened to be like this, yeah, which is what we call a little ratter, we don't want, all you would do is when you're setting up, at this point now, I basically want to set one of these trees in the floor to start, so I'm not going to go any further back than it being a wall. So for me, I know I can do a line here now, because it's going to be, I'm okay with that triangle size, because inevitably somewhere it's probably going to be a bit crap. But Had you have had that small little triangle, okay, and not a bigger triangle, all you do at this point is use the shift measurement, which for us was 27 mil, and you'd either come back this way 27 mil, or you'd go the opposite way 27 mil. Then you'd set up from there. And that will give you equal sized triangles each end, providing it's a square or rectangle ring. Again, in a hallway like this, you're going to be a bit limited because the door, you know, we're going to have something that's not going to fall great for us somewhere. So, yeah. But yeah, so now all we do is I'll set this in the floor, line this up, make sure it's dead perfect, and then I'll get the crown roller in. But hopefully this video helps you with setting out herringbone. Much love.